Mr. McCarthy here. In this tutorial, I will show you how to add photos to a pre-existing Photoshop document. Now, there are a number of ways to do it. I'm going to show you the way that I'd like you to follow for a specific reason, and I'm going to try and demonstrate that reason for you here. Okay, so we have a pre-existing document with two layers. This is what we have been working on in the previous two videos. What I want to do is I want to import a new image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Finder. I'll go to my desktop. I'll look in my collected folder, and then McCarthy's folder is here. So I'll get one of these. I'll just use one of these guys who are throwing a disk photo that I took last week. It's the same photo. Okay, so I can do this. If I were to, well, this is the way that I'd like you to do it. I would like you to drag your photo all the way down and put it on top of the Photoshop icon. When you do that, you create a new Photoshop document. There's a new tab here, right? So here's the original tab that I was working with, my two layers. And by dragging that photo from this folder directly onto the Photoshop icon, I create a new tab. Okay? And once I create that new tab, if I want to combine it with my first project, I can break this tab off, and then as long as I'm on my move here, I can move that directly over. Okay? Extremely large image. Okay? Somewhat out of focus, not particularly thrilled with this image. And then notice that from by viewing it, each of these layers appear to be the same. Obviously, there are different layers, layers 0, 2, and 3, but the condition in which they are represented on the layers palette, exactly the same. So if I wanted to move layer 2 up, there it is. I have layer 2 selected. I can move this around, or I can put it back the way that I wanted to. With layer 3 selected, I can move this around. Again, I am on my move tool here. I can make edits to this top. Okay, so I selected that. I'm hitting delete, and I can carve into my topmost layer. In this case, I can carve into any layer as long as it's the layer that I've selected. Okay, I'm going to go Command Z, Command D for deselect, and that's that. Okay, let me show you a way that a lot of Photoshop users will add a photo. So here's my photo. Do this. I'm going to add a different photo. I'm going to come back to the folder, and I will add. I'll add this bike photo. So instead of dragging it onto the icon here, what a lot of Photoshop users will do is they'll just drag it directly. Whoops. Try that again. We'll drag it. Cooperate. There we go. Drag it directly onto here. Then notice what happens. What happens is we get this big X on here. And so it is, we're actually in the midst of a placement of an image rather than importing it into Photoshop. Notice that it goes directly into the Photoshop file that we dragged it onto, and it has this big X on it. So if I move to my Move tool, it's going to ask me, do I want to place this file? So it seems obvious. If we want it there, we'll click Place. Okay? And this is what I want you to take note of here. This is a smart object now. Smart objects have a number of different functions. They work with objects that are created in Photoshop that can go directly to websites, perform a number of different things. In our case, since we're just working with photos, here's one of the limitations. Now if I want, so this is noted as 7 here. If I wanted to, say, cut out the bicycler and I go to delete, this is the message that I get. Could not complete your request because the smart object is not directly editable. We want all of our items for these first projects to be editable. Therefore, what we don't want to do, as I'm trying to demonstrate in this video, is when you bring in your images, don't pull them directly into a Photoshop document. Always pull your images onto the Photoshop icon. They'll develop into their own tab. bring them into a pre-existing document, break your tab, using the Move tool, bring it over. Okay, and as you can see here, it's a layer, unlike the Smart Object here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this Smart Object, which I don't want anymore, and I'm going to move that to my trash. And then it's gone. Okay, so this has been a tutorial on adding photos to a pre-existing Photoshop document. Remember, folks, when you're bringing an image in, I want you to drag that image on top of your Photoshop icon. Don't drag it directly in here. It will cause you some heartache. All right, this is Mr. McCarthy, signing off.